Sick Harrison Price for Thursday, June 19th, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the Historic Wall Center, and this show a presentation of Bet365. Matt Sakaris with Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. We got a big show today, and sometimes I just say that, and sometimes I mean it. And today is one of those days I mean it.
And now going forward, you destroyed the trust that our listeners and viewers have in us. They're all big shows.
Mm-hmm. Miss a day, miss a lot.
That's right. There you go.
Mm-hmm. You know where he took that from? The Saturday Night Live host monologue, where they always end with, got a great show coming up for you.
It's true.
Let us start with the Whistler Golf Club poll question, daily poll question. If Evander Kane can be acquired for low cost, should be at low cost, actually. I'll put myself on Easonos. Should the Canucks bring him home, the Vancouverite? You can vote yes, you can vote no. Do so at the Sick Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. Mr. Price, first word.
There's a point where most players that are true National Hockey League players are worth it to any team at the right price, low or high. 50% retention for the Edmonton Oilers, which saves them the hassle of a buyout over years, peels the Band-Aid off in 1 year. For a player that's physical, that at last look, not so much in these NHL playoffs, but in the regular season, a year ago was coming off a 24-goal season. There's your Pius Suter, reclaiming of goals. And even in the playoffs, pretty darn good for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, he comes with baggage is understating what comes along with Evander Kane. He's a Samsonite semi-trailer of bags. Imagine Samsonite pulling up to a Walmart and just box flat upon flat of suitcases. That's the baggage. Some of it absolutely earned. Some of it perhaps blown out of proportion. But it's baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what the Vancouver Canucks need in their locker? With the guy you get on the ice, by all means. Everything else, oh boy. I'm torn on this one. I really am.
What did you vote?
I voted no. Too big a risk. We've been down this road too many times.
What do you mean too big a risk?
They're coming off a profoundly catastrophic season in the dressing room with personalities, honestly, and that sort of thing. I just don't think they can tempt fate again.
Okay, but his Oilers teammates had no problem with him.
Well, there's not a McDavid and Draisaitl in that Canucks.
Yeah, well, but there is a Quinn Hughes. Look, if Quinn Hughes says, "Oh no, don't want any part of that guy," then we're done here. But the Vancouver Canucks, if they are going to achieve their goal, and as we know, their goal is to get back to the playoffs next season and to give Quinn Hughes reason for hope and want to stick around, they are going to have to make some bets here. And what better bet to make than one at low cost with a good player? He may not be at his height anymore. It's fair enough. But he's a helpful player and brings some elements that the Vancouver Canucks don't really have, right?
100%. Yeah.
The poll question speaks to low cost because the Edmonton Oilers have cap issues. And the Edmonton Oilers are looking to solve those cap issues. And this is one of the players that's going to be expendable.
And
there's even talk they may buy him out.
Yes.
So to take on his $5 million, and it's just a little bit more than $5 million, for just the one more season is probably going to come at very low cost, like late round pick, nothing prospect. Maybe even Edmonton retains some salary for a middle round pick.
Yep.
I mean, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you're in the mix here with all these other teams that are looking to improve that also have cap space and in many cases have more assets to trade than you do. So you have to be investigating the low-cost bets. This is a low-cost bet. If it's not working out, or if the Canucks are not in the playoff hunt come next year's trade deadline, you'll be able to move him on, recoup something, and call it a day.
I'd be more
and
inclined.
If he does work out, that's exactly the sort of win you're going to need because, as we've talked about, you're trying to swim a narrow channel here.
Mm-hmm.
You need like 3 top 6 forwards, top 9 forwards, whatever the case may be. And you're not going to be able to pay top dollar either in free agency or pay top dollar in terms of trade costs to get them all. One of them is going to have to come on the cheap.
And he sort of offsets, if you do go and land Marco Rossi, he would offset a player like that on the same line if you've got the edge and the size of an Evander Kane. I get more tempted, Matt. I get more tempted with retention of salary. And I would even, if I'm the Canucks, I'd be willing to flip a larger asset, a larger round pick, if you will, if they retain more and more. I'm not a first, but but I might get as far as a second if they go half.
But Rossi, no. As for Evander's baggage in the room, or he's not good in the room. So he didn't like living in Winnipeg. Here's the thing, folks. Professional sports has a peculiarity that the rest of the world does not. It's called an entry draft. In any other walk of life, if you're one of the top up-and-coming out of college, university, high school prospects in your given field, you get to choose whom you work for, where you live. It's not the case in pro sports. You get assigned to a franchise via the draft. I think Evander just articulated what a lot of guys go through, and that is, I would really prefer not to be here. I would prefer to be in a different place playing my trade. The other matter, what he wore tracksuits to team events. Well, we've talked about the folly of this a million times. Because you wear a suit to leave your hotel room, get on a bus, drive to the arena, walk up the loading dock to the dressing room, doesn't make you play any better. And if you want to say, but his unwillingness to wear a suit and blend in and be uniform with the team, okay. But it's not affecting his play. It's not affecting his teammates' play. So, and the other thing is those matters were some time ago, right?
Well, there's a lot more on his rap sheet than that, though. 2 different women have accused him of assault, filed for bankruptcy, gambling debts extraordinaire.
Yep.
Suspended by the league for breaking COVID protocols. Like those are all like those affect the team. Like they do. When that's swirling around the team, that affects the team.
And the bet you would have to be making with that is Evander Kane beyond all that? He doesn't have a lot of runway left, right? Mm-hmm. He's closer to the end of his National Hockey League career than the beginning. He'll be 34 this summer. So that's the evaluation here.
Yeah.
Is he past all of those things? Because if he is,
I don't know how you do.
I think you can feel more comfortable with him.
Outside of talking to a handful of Oilers to get some due diligence on that, I don't know how, as an acquiring team, you get an accurate read on that. Troy from Richmond on line 1.
Well, I mean, you've got to go suss it out.
To the best of your ability. I don't know how accurate you can be in that because anybody.
I mean, every NHL organization. So you've got tons of people who work in hockey ops, and they have tons of contacts around the league, including with the Edmonton Oilers. So,
yeah,
and with agents and with players. So Anyways, look, it's I think we have to be prepared for the Vancouver Canucks taking some swings here or going down alternate routes to try and improve their team rather than just trading for the best players that are on the trade market that we've talked about or trying to sign one of the top free agents. Reclamation projects, I think, are going to have to be a part of this equation because they need so much with so little to be able to get it done.
And one other thing to consider in terms of trade acquisition cost, that's one thing. If the Oilers do buy him out, he could just say, I want to play at home. I want to go home. And he could sign for something very low.
That's the other thing.
So there is a route to acquiring him via free agency where he gets bought out by the Oilers. And, I mean, they have to sort of make that decision now because the window opens tomorrow, I believe. Mm-hmm. And at that point, the Canucks could sign him for a very team-friendly deal.
Yeah.
If that's where he is in his career.
Yeah.
Now, again, a guy that filed for bankruptcy might just be chasing money at that point, and I don't begrudge him for that point.
Yeah, but the other thing is the Canucks are in a state of desperation to some degree, and when you have sports organizations and front offices who are in those situations, they tend to be willing to take on more risk.
Well, the Canucks are in desperation mode. They cannot be turning their nose up at a lot of things.
No.
Some things, yes.
And I see this out there amongst Canucks fans, and I completely understand it. You want the best for your team. You want the most ideal fixes. But Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin don't have that luxury. They have to consider imperfect players, imperfect people.
Okay, with that in mind.
In order to achieve what they're trying to achieve. That's the state they're in.
The chat has taken this suggestion and doubled down, Matt.
Oh.
And maybe this is a poll question for tomorrow. Maybe we honestly do ask this tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Andrei Kuzmenko.
I've seen him, his name out there. He can absolutely help your power play.
His stats in the last year and a half are tremendous.
You know he loves it here. Now,
and he was even good in the playoffs.
Right. Now, I would think that this front office still probably has skepticism, if not more than that, against off-season preparation, conditioning, and not necessarily wanting to introduce more of that into the room. Guys who have had issues with that in the past. That one to me is an investigation. Okay, is he preparing more like a pro? I mean, how many times does Patrick Allvin mention preparation? If that is the case, then I can see that one too.
Again,
you need goals.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Again, imperfect player. And the other missing ingredient there, Blake, is we don't yet know what kind of system Adam Foote is going to play and how akin it is to what Rick Tocchet plays.
Right. And if it's at all more open, Kuzmenko looks pretty intriguing because you could get, I mean, honestly, you dream the impossible dream. You could get both of those players for a song. Like, there is a world in which both of those players are signed at very team-friendly deals, given what their recent history has been.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Low-cost bets.
Yeah.
As I mentioned yesterday, I am all for throwing a ton of money at Sam Bennett because you have problems to fix, and he can help fix one of them. And it's a highly competitive environment this summer to secure the services of talented players. And you're going to have to go above and beyond where you normally would be comfortable going. I am also more open, again, from their shoes. I mean, I think it's clear on this show and just about most covering the Canucks that at some point a proper rebuild with a long-term vision is going to be necessary. You're kind of just kicking this can down the road. But if it continues to be a patchwork year to year, lurch from crisis to crisis, put the Band-Aid on the wound and hope everything goes right to make the playoffs, then you're going to have to take on some bets that you otherwise wouldn't take. And if they are low-cost bets, that is better than high-cost bets.
And low risk in terms of Evander Kane, he's just got the 1 year left. So again,
Right.
if you let's just go down this road. If you got 50% retention,
If it washes out.
if you got 50% retention from the Oilers, so you're down to 2.8 million, and it doesn't work out after 30 games, and you want to send him to the minors, guess what? Guess what he eats up on your cap? 1.5?
Yeah.
Not a huge penalty.
Something you can absolutely stomach in an environment where the cap is going up $7 million. Mike, was that a come to me? Did you want in on this?
I was just cheering for the thought of PD being flanked by Kuzmenko and Kane,
Oh, okay.
who balance each other out quite
Mike
nicely,
is an
actually.
unabashed Canucks fan. He's got takes. Follow him on Twitter. Yeah, Kane and Kuzmenko on PD's line. I'd be interested to see that. I would too.
It's the reclamation line. Like
It
you
really
just call
is.
it that.
It is.
For
It
all
is.
three. All three. Different
And who
reclamations.
knows? Maybe that brings the best out of the three of them, right? The tie that binds.
Well, you've got you
Kuzmenko, they didn't want me. I bounced around.
That's
Now
right.
I'm back. Petey, they were looking at trading me as well. They criticized me a lot in public. Evander, you guys want to talk criticism? Hey, look at these two shoulders.
Land of Misfit Toys.
The daily poll question brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club, now open for the 2025 season. Tee times can be booked online for any time. Get them locked in. Follow them on social at Whistler Golf and check out all the bear activity. And there has been plenty of bear activity. And if you have a group of 12 or more, ask about the Sekeres Price midweek special. You can play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The group of 12 or more, they're going to take excellent care of you. Good discount there at the Whistler Golf Club. whistlergolf.com/groups. Time now for today's top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Off-season started, floodgates open, Canucks options falling off the board. NHL teams getting after it in the hours after Florida lifts the cup. We've already got signings, we've already got trades, and we're expecting many, many more over the next couple of weeks and over the next 8 days leading up to the first round of the NHL entry draft. For the Canucks, one of the questions is about how many top six forwards get to free agency, with Vancouver seeking a top two center and at least one top six winger, if not more. Couple of UFAs are already off the market. Dallas re-signs 34-year-old Matt Duchene today, a 4-year deal at $4.5 million per season. Texas also a tax-free jurisdiction like Florida. This was look, Canucks are looking for a top two center who scores. This was one of the best ones in free agency. This was a point-per-game player who could play the middle of the ice and have a track record. Most everybody expected him to re-sign in Dallas, and here you go. That was prophecy.
Not jealous
So
of that
no
one,
Matt Duchene. There were many of us who thought, look, if this is the track they're going down, just about how do we get back to the playoffs next year, this guy could help you get back to the playoffs next year.
Not jealous of this one in the least. I have no interest, if I'm the Canucks, in paying for a center at 36 and 37 years of age.
We just talked about bets.
That's a long-term bet. That's a bet with risk.
So he's 34. I believe he's 35 midway through next season. So you get him for age 34, 35, 36, 37.
Yeah.
Turning 38 in the final months of his final deal.
Don't love that at all. And especially,
So you think he's going to fall off the table here between over these 4
I think
years?
you might get 2 decent years, but the last 2 years I'm not excited about.
What if you're getting 3 good years? That makes it worthwhile.
But you don't get
right?
that guarantee when you sign, right? You don't
Nope,
get that guarantee.
nope.
The Chicago re-signing of Ryan Donato, on the other hand,
Okay.
I think that's a decent one. 29-year-old.
That's 4x4. He's small. Some people like him much better on the wing because of the size at center ice. As you know, we like bigger centers in the National Hockey League, particularly if they're going to
He's
have
not
to play.
small. He's 6 feet tall.
He's skinny. He's light. He's not rugged. Is that Better?
That's not rugged, sure. There's a lot of centers that aren't rugged, but yes.
Okay. Coming off a career year, 31 goals, 31 for 62. Nice symmetry there, Ryan Donato. This was a player who has bounced around a fair bit already. Boston, Minnesota, San Jose, Seattle, and Chicago. Do we have the J-Fresh player card? There we go. It says a physical edge. All right. Okay. But also calls a middle six scoring winger.
Did have a career year, as you see on the line graph there. That spikes. So
I maybe sort of underplayed his physicality and size. Okay. Huge shooting percentage last year. Probably won't shoot 17% again next year, so probably won't get up to.
He's 31 and 31, goals. But if he goes to 25 and 25, are you okay? Yeah, you're probably okay with that, right?
I'm actually surprised to see the power play number there as low as it is.
So get more production
exactly
there.
A two-way player. Anyways, on a slim pickings free agent market, there was some attractiveness to Donato. Many were at first surprised Chicago didn't move him at the deadline, and then it became clear that Chicago had a reasonable expectation that they could get him extended, and that Donato had some interest in staying. So there he goes. There he stays in Chicago with North Van's Connor Bedard to be part of the scoring threat of the Blackhawks. Frank Saravelli saying the Canucks have called the Buffalo Sabres about J.J. Peterka. Again, not a center, but a scoring winger. Everybody anticipates Peterka will be traded in the next 8 days or so. The Sabres reportedly want a right-handed defenseman back and a top four right-handed defenseman back. A, given the quality of player Peterka is, but B, because they also anticipate trading Bowen Byram, who had played the right side there. So the Peterka file is still out there. Elsewhere around the league, Edmonton re-signs Trent Frederick, $4 million by 8 years. Ottawa extends Fabian Zetterlund. They got him from the San Jose Sharks at the deadline. He was an RFA, 3-year deal, 4.3. And Nashville acquires New Jersey forward Eric Holla for a depth player and a depth prospect and a pick. Holla had a poor year. Jersey clearing some cap space.
And Holla, former Predator, so some feels there.
Yeah.
So, but it's starting, right? I mean, none of these are blockbuster. I mean, Duchesne's a big name, but at the end of his career, but it's all just business, and it's in the category that the Canucks are shopping in. It's in their aisle.
That's it in their aisle. But Blake, not blockbusters. But again, given the shallowness of the free agent market at center ice, these were two of the bigger names.
I'll say this, though, Matt, and they don't do it officially on the open market, but they do it with the temptation of the open market. The numbers aren't huge. You know, we talked about people throwing stupid money at players this offseason. And again, nobody can sign Matt Duchene right now. The Dallas Stars are the lone team in his ear, but he knows if he waits 2 weeks, he does. So he signs with Dallas knowing it probably goes up from here. But Dallas does get him at a really fair. Like, I wouldn't love that for the Canucks, but it's not a crazy contract. Like, it's not ridiculous. And I think that's a little bit interesting, given what we've all been convincing ourselves that it's going to be stupid money in the unrestricted free agent market. Like, if it's stupid money, why are these players settling for these contracts?
Well, in Duchene's case, he's a veteran player who wants to be on a winning team, loves Dallas, and, of course, isn't paying state tax there.
But isn't it true?
In Donato's case, I know a lot less.
But, Matt, doesn't it just make economic sense if you're Matt Duchene to wait till July 2nd and still re-sign with Dallas? Have that drive up the price a little bit? Like, doesn't that make sense? Like, he just wanted it done. It sounds like
Dallas could have also said, "Look, Matt, this offer is good till June 30th at 11 p.m. and otherwise, like, we have to move on, son."
Yeah,
I mean, that's
possible.
That's the tough part of the business, right? Anyways, buckle up, folks. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be interesting. It
really is.
I
think a couple of things are going to happen here over the next 2 weeks. Number one, you are going to see a trade and go, "Oh my God, what an overpay." And then
I think
on
the
July
opposite's going to
1st,
happen too, though.
I think on July 1st, you are going to see a contract and go, oh my God, what an overpay. And that's because there is more need out there, and with cap space, and with depreciation of assets in terms of draft pick and prospects in this competitive milieu, that is going to shift the paradigm in terms of our understanding of what a player is worth, both financially and on the trade market in the National Hockey League.
I think we're going to see a trade or two where you're like, really? That's all?
But are you talking cap dumps here?
Cap dumps.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. There are some teams that are cap tight. In fact, Dallas is one, Ottawa is one, Edmonton is the three.
But even
teams that
Shoppers,
are
man.
involved. So you may well see some cap dumps. We just talked about Evander Kane is effectively a cap dump. So, I think there will be some cap dumps, but I think the overwhelming majority are in better cap positions, and thus I think you're going to see some conspicuous consumption and spending here more so than
even teams that aren't right up against the cap, though, Matt. Teams that want to shop, teams that want to go on a spree. They want the most cap space available, so they're not up against it per se, but they're up against it for their plan. Their plan, they want to go get X, Y, and Z player. We can't do that unless we get $4 more million of cap space. Ergo, we're going to give you this guy for free. I think those deals are going to happen. A box of tricks up the sleeve, perhaps, of a general manager, Yellow Dog Brewing, also has one, though. Choose between the classic Squirrel Chaser, Hazy Pale Ale, the limited release Rough West Coast IPA, and then the two brand new beers, the Spin Tropical DDH IPA and the Obedience India Golden Ale. Those all four sound delicious. Show off your skills. Enjoy a mix of fresh and hoppy brews from Yellow Dog.
I'm thinking of taking a couple of Yellow Dogs down to the beach later today. It's a lovely day outside.
Is it going to be hot?
That's the thing. She has a tolerance. She just loves the beach.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course.
And especially with
feels like 19 is the high. So
yeah,
bring a sweater.
This is the debate that forever goes on in my house. We'll come to a June weekend. Do you want to go to the beach this Saturday? I go, what's the temperature going to be? We'll look up the temperature. Now, anything 20 and above, that's just automatic. We're going to go. When you're not quite at 20, that's where I ask her, okay, well, what's the wind like? Because there'll be times, Kits, Spanish Bank, Jericho, those usually the beaches.
19 and no wind is nice.
Where 18, but with the wind.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's if I'm wearing a sweater, I don't want to be at a beach. Shorts and T-shirt. Flip-flops. But she's got more tolerance for that.
Mm.
She just wants to, especially early in the season, because it's been a while.
She's tougher than you, so you're saying?
To a degree. LTIR, long-term injured reserve, is rearing its head again in the aftermath of a Stanley Cup championship, in this case, the Florida Panthers win. And this is a matter that actually may get some address in the next CBA. Saravelli, sources saying NHL plans to continue to examine the Oilers' usage of LTIR when it comes to Evander Kane. The NHL may require more information to satisfy itself that the Oilers complied with the CBA. Kane returned for the second game of their first-round series against the LA Kings after not playing in the regular season. The Oilers did not use Evander Kane's LTIR space until the final 24 hours before the deadline, where they got what they say is clarity from doctors that Kane would be unable to play until the postseason. That's when they went out and made some of the additions. You may remember what Frederick Wallman. Frank reports the NHL is still deliberating on the next step. There's the potential for retroactive punishment if the league finds the spirit of the CBA. Oh, where have we heard this before?
Oh, my God.
Was violated. No team in the salary cap era has been punished for LTIR usage. Here you go, Edmonton. You get a chance to be the Vancouver Canucks and recapture with Roberto Luongo. The only team that has been punished for the backdiving contracts that the NHL registered were wholly legal, but then found violated the spirit of the CBA.
So
here's the thing. There are general managers who believe LTIR exploitation is out of hand and should be buttoned up in the next CBA. 3 of the last 5 Stanley Cup champions had a player making at least $9.5 million on LTIR until Game 1 of the playoffs, including Florida. Kachuk, and the reporting there is that it's been a torn adductor muscle, but their LTIR space allowed them to go out and get Seth Jones in conjunction with the LTIR space they had, and somebody needs to explain this one to me. When Aaron Ekblad got a 20-game suspension for using PEDs. And Aaron Ekblad gave a very full and mea culpa explanation that, I took something and I shouldn't, and produced a positive test, and I'll accept the punishment. Why are we giving them additional cap space when they have a player who's suspended for effectively cheating?
And you might think, hey, that's to protect the team from the actions of one individual, but by punishing the team collectively, that should be a part of what dissuades a player from going outside the bounds. I don't want to screw my team over, so I'm not going to do this.
And so Brad Marchand and Seth Jones, because you had LTIR space with Kachuk, and I've seen nobody doubt Kachuk's injury, and he certainly didn't look at his best in the playoffs. But with an Ekblad PED suspension.
Yeah.
The bottom line, there are LTIR exploitation angles to both finalists this year. And if you want to make a case, that's what this league is turning into, a competition between clubs to see who can extract more value out of the cap by exploiting CBA loopholes. You have a good argument here. Because the tax-free business, that comes into play here as well. Like if having a high-priced player on LTIR until Game 1, Round 1 continues to be something of Stanley Cup champions, then you've got a problem. Just like when you have 5 of the last 6 Stanley Cup champions in tax-free jurisdictions, you really ought to start looking at that.
The
Just
question,
because it hasn't been the case for 20 years doesn't mean it isn't a more recent phenomenon with teams getting smarter and further exploiting the rules.
So how do you – it's really easy to draw punishments, and we can draw punishments for days, come up with a huge list of possibilities. Not punishments, more guidelines. Well, if you're going to have a guy in LTIR, when's their eligibility in the playoffs? You can come up with all sorts of things on the spectrum. But Matt, Canucks are,
and I think that's what GMs are looking at as
okay.
they.
But walk me through this here. Mm-hmm. Canucks are 5 points over the playoff bar in middle February, and Quinn Hughes gets injured.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty significant injury. Mm-hmm. And significant injuries in the NHL are generally a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where is the provision for that team? What do you do? Like, because that's legit. Canucks would rather have Quinn Hughes in the lineup, but Quinn Hughes is injured. He's tweaked his knee. It's going to be a couple of months. Coincidentally, probably in and around the start of the playoffs.
If it's a couple, well, yeah, the coincidentally part.
But that, I mean, the games ramp up.
Like,
intensity is there.
I don't doubt.
So how do you guard against that?
I don't doubt that there are outlier situations where a player cannot play in the final regular season game, but gets healthy enough in how many days, 5, 6 days between your last regular season game and the start of the playoffs. I don't doubt that there are legitimate situations there, but I do think there are outliers.
But there are for sure. But how do you
these
find?
Have been and it's also the situations and not Kachuk, but certainly with Vegas and Mark Stone. They did not pass the smell test.
How do you differentiate? That's the question I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, you're going to be punishing a bunch of teams that have legitimate injuries. I mean, it's a grind. It's
and that may be the collateral damage.
attrition.
And that may be the collateral damage that's required in order to close off this loophole. The other is put them in the lineup for the final regular season game.
Yeah, I mean,
put him in the lineup, put him on the bench. If he's not completely healthy enough to go, limit his minutes. You're playing at a disadvantage in that game in order to play with your full roster, your full lineup in the first postseason game.
Yeah.
Yep. No, but they're unlike tax-free jurisdictions where we have not heard anything, but I still leave out faint hope that you have governors who are irked enough about this to go against Gary. But faint hope, but
grand scheme of things, though, Matt. But if the punishment is he can't play in the first game, do you think the Florida Panthers would have changed a single thing about what they did if it just meant that Brad Marchand or whoever was coming back? I suppose
Kachuk
wouldn't have was only eligible in game 2. Like they do that in a second, of course. Of course, they continue on with what they did.
Then maybe it has to be more than one game.
Yeah,
2 games. We'll talk about this later with Patrick Johnson as well. Abbotsford Canucks game 4 tonight at Abbey Center versus the Charlotte Checkers, holding a 2-1 series advantage. As we have talked about, there is a possibility that the Calder Cup, a professional hockey trophy, is lifted in this community by the weekend. If Abbey wins tonight, they get a chance to close this series out Saturday in Game 5 at Abbey Center.
The Calder Cup will tweet, I'm in the building.
Of course, that will be the last home game for the Abbotsford Canucks either way because of this 2-3-2 arrangement in the best of 7. Game 6 and Game 7 will be back in Charlotte. And as you said yesterday, if you get this one, you get the build-up to Saturday and a chance to lift the trophy on your home ice in this community if you're Manny Malhotra and the Abbotsford Canucks. The star, of course, for the Abbotsford Canucks has been forward Linus Karlsson. And I was these totals really just jumped out at me. I guess I hadn't done the math like JPAT had. Regular season and playoffs combined, Linus Karlsson has scored 34 goals in 53 games for Abbotsford this season. 34 and 53.
Yeah, well, it's not to be
That's not even 3/4 of a season, and he's at 34 goals. He, of course, leads AHL playoff scoring, 22 points, 11 goals, and he's got 3 game winners, which is tied for the lead in the Calder Cup playoffs as well. So the extraordinary season continues for Linus Karlsson. Jeff didn't even include his NHL totals in that. If we're talking NHL totals on top of his AHL totals, well, add 3 more goals. That's 37 goals.
Now, 23 more games, but yes, still a good season. As I said, he's going to be 26 at the start of the season. I think they need to give him a medium-sized leash and see if he's a National Hockey League player.
He's absolutely.
But I don't know that I think it's a do or die year because I don't think you're developing a guy going into his 27th.
Correct.
So
he's got to be an NHLer this next year.
Yeah.
He's got to be an NHLer who is either in the lineup every night or is clearly your 13th forward.
That's right.
Not sending him back down.
No.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to today's menu. It is brought to you by Greta, a fantastic spot to catch all the games home and away. You're just steps from the arena or stadium, so pregame there, postgame there. And if you're planning a summer event, a team building event, summer sociable, something in and around a family reunion or a wedding, you're looking for a space where everybody can have some fun, you got to check out Greta. The arcade is amazing, fun for everyone. The street food menu, unpretentious, delicious, healthy portions. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. Patrick Johnson will join us. Rob Williams will join us. All Vancouver Canucks topics here. And then, well, Jesse Marsh. It's kind of a newsmaker.
Yeah.
This new coach of ours for Canadian soccer, he's not afraid to speak his mind. That sometimes gets him in trouble.
Don't worry, no drones. No drones.
No drones. Yeah.
Drone-free
that's true.
problems.
It's been a very newsy position in Canadian sport.
Yes, indeed.
So we'll get to that story. He's under investigation for his behavior Tuesday during Canada's big 6-0 victory over Honduras. All of that is coming up. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. Lead us off.
I'm going to the Gold Cup, and I cannot cheer against the Saudis, or for the Saudis. I cannot cheer for the Americans. So I will cheer on a draw that hurts them both. Plus 310 on a Saudi-American draw. This comes in a tournament where the other two kingpins of CONCACAF have not looked terribly great. Mexico wins 2-0 yesterday over Suriname, but it was a 0-0 game into the 57th minute, and they scored 2 goals in 6 minutes then, but that was it. They had a 6-minute spell where they scored, and otherwise Suriname played them very tight. So let's see if the Americans can pull one over on a decent Saudi team. They're not great, but they're decent.
I was hoping for that Dominican Republic upset yesterday in Gold Cup, but Costa Rica got them 2-1, so you have the honor.
But another good effort by Dominican
for sure.
Republic.
And we'll score another goal.
Yeah.
Our friend Basketball Phil checked in with the tip, so I'm going to run with it.
Okay.
Game 6 NBA Finals tonight. Tyrese Halliburton has a calf injury for Indiana. And so, as Phil points out, that probably means that Canadian Andrew Nembhard, who is a point guard by trade, it will likely be orchestrating more of the offense for the Pacers. They're going to want to preserve Halliburton, and they need his scoring. So they're probably going to take the ball out of his hands a little bit in terms of being your classic point guard, run the offense. Means Nembhard's going to be in that spot. 7 or more assists for Nembhard tonight, paying at plus 250. If you really like Indiana and think Nembhard, who is more a distributor than he is a scorer, is really going to make an effort to get the ball around into good scoring position, 10 plus assists, paying plus 1,400. So we're gonna cast our lot with the Canadian. We're gonna hope for Indiana to win this game and have a thrilling
10
game.
assists though.
Well, 10's a lot, but they do score a lot, and they play in transition a lot too, Blake. Like they want to run, so
I'd rather
you're going to get more possessions. Well, that's
yeah.
I mean, that's why I gave you both the 7 and the 10. This segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the games, use code NATION with that app. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Patrick Johnston coming up next. Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
And also historic, the electric lineup of vehicles from Toyota. The badge that you know, as soon as you roll off the lot with a brand new Toyota, you know you're going to own that car for years, in some cases, decades. It's true. It happens. And the lineup of electric vehicles is no different. That's the reliability that you can trust. The BZ4X is the latest edition. Boy, is it fun to drive. Just the right size. You fit into downtown parking spots, but you've got room for the gear as well for those sojourns up to Whistler, the island, wherever you're going. And the LE all-wheel drive edition right now, which, you know, for BC, again, probably a good idea to have all-wheel drive. $5,000 in incentives right now, 0.99% APR financing over 36 months. Go take one for a test drive, fall in love, and then jump into the HOV lane. to get home. How does that sound? ShopToyota.ca.
Sounds great. Here's Patrick Johnson of the Province and Post Media. He covers the Canucks. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Good. Fantastic. Fantastic. You're working on a story. For
I think
those
it's
who
up by
don't,
now. Should be up by now.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
For those who don't know, Paolo Aquilini, the youngest of the three Aquilini brothers, is being bought out by Roberto and Francesco. That is a significant cost because the value of sports franchises these days, and you have news there. What can you tell us?
Well, I mean, it's a question of does Sekeres and Price have $500 million lying around?
A half. Close, but we'll have to have the accountants look into it.
I'll have to call my banker.
Yeah.
I mean, none of this. I don't think this in particular is surprising for attention. Listen, the family said we're not selling the team. Fine, that's certainly the case. But as I think has also been noted by a certain national level insider, there is a discussion, as that's the kind way to put it, inside the family. They need it, like, I mean, at the valuation that I understand they need $500 million. And I had a couple of people tell me that they're quietly looking around to see if they can find a minority investor. And I mean, I don't think there's any notion that this is a change in ownership. I certainly know people wish cast about that, and you certainly hear rumors flying around. Oh, this person's bidding, this person. I'm like, I don't think any of those. I mean, they certainly may have had conversations with people about would you be interested in investment. But as it stands, it sounds like it's still an open question, and they would like to resolve it. They need to resolve it. It's not a cash flow, but there is an equity stake here that Paolo does not want and is not part of. And as we heard, he has withdrawn himself from the team. The semantics, I think, are interesting. But in the end, there were 4 names connected with this team: Luigi, Francesco, Roberto, Paolo. There are now 3, but they would like to get back to 4.
Maybe the Bus family. I think there might be some funds.
They have some liquidity now, don't they?
Yeah.
Is Mark Walter going to own everything by the end of all this? Like he's got the Lakers, he's got the Dodgers, he's got the PWHL. Like what is left?
Yeah, I mean,
NHL buy the whole league.
Yeah, I was going to say how much
MLS?
longer does Phil Landshutz want to own the Kings? Although owns the building there as well.
Now,
so.
He does. That's true. Although so by the way, just someone pointed this out to me. Interesting thing when we think about who owns teams and where they are. You made a great point. Landshut owns the team. The Buses do. The Lakers are guests at Crypto.
Well, as the Celtics are at the TD Bank North Garden, and there's another one too where the NHL team owns the arena and the NBA team is a tenant. But once upon a time, and I'm not sure if it's still the case, I would need edification on this. But the NBA had like a bylaw or something in its constitution that basically
primary tenancy.
Yes, you have right of first refusal, right of first dates,
Right.
primary tenancy in the facilities you
Right.
if you don't own them.
Yeah,
So,
right.
well, I mean, if you own them, of course you do.
That must have been negotiated with Staples, though, way back when.
Yeah,
no?
well, but I mean, who says no to the Lakers as a tenant, right? Like, okay, sure. You want your dates first? Great. We'll work the Kings around you because we're making scads of money. With you being a tenant. Okay.
And now I don't bring that up to give people false hope. Like, I don't think that's happening. I mean, as I've said before, calls have been made, and they would be.
They're not selling controlling interest. They're selling a minority stake to finance buying out Paolo. Let me ask you this though: Do you think this process could affect hockey ops spending this summer?
I don't know. I mean, it's. I find myself looking around. There certainly has been a lot of changes. I don't think it's any secret. There's been a lot of changes in sort of the business side and executive suite. A lot of senior VPs and VPs are out. Partnerships and technology, I believe there's a change happening there. A lot of people in and out. And you look at some of the shifts on the digital side, like obviously people we see on a day-to-day, like certainly social media team. I understand there's been some turnover there. I had a couple of guys leave from sort of director level in the media department, which has been an ongoing turnover. Although the front facing people I think are still there, but it's a strange one, and we'll see. I mean, I don't know financially. I mean, I don't have any sense. Certainly, there's never been any hesitation to spend on the shop window other than in that COVID season. There's never been any hesitation to spend on the shop window. It's always been about renovations to the arena and taking time to do that. As someone joked me, it took them 4 years to do a 1-year renovation, but it still happens. It still gets done. So no, I don't have reason to think that they aren't going to spend on hockey players any less
or
than
practice facility. They seem to be putting moving forward with that file too. So
yeah, I mean they're wandering around. How much is actually happening?
It's better than not wandering around. I'll give them that.
I guess. But Burnaby, like they didn't meet with any. They went when they were at Rosemary Brown. Like I did get it confirmed from the city of Burnaby. They didn't meet with anybody there. So they're looking at stuff. They're certainly aware of what's around.
Yeah.
The Britannia. I mean, they looked at the Agrodome. They actually talked to the Agrodome. But if you read carefully what Loris Ballin said, there was a revenue question. And I don't think it was terribly appealing.
Very diplomatic of Miss Balance, I must say, Laura. I read that quote and I went, "You got the point across, Laura." And very diplomatically couched language.
Well,
yes, like basically buck up, guys. Like if you want to be a part of this, you got to buck up. You can't just throw your logo on the building and say, "Look at all the value we're providing to you." No. Real money, real money.
Yeah, like a daytime ice or whatever. Like come on, guys. Like if you're getting upgrades.
Yeah.
And I mean, as I said in my story, like it's a bit odd 15 years into this that it hasn't gotten done, despite the fact these guys are involved in development and these guys have a lot of money.
They build things.
Like
here,
I get that land is hard and land is challenging, but like
the Tampa Bay Rays just got bought by a developer. I'm gonna guess they get their stadium. I'm gonna guess that happens.
Yes. Yeah. Evander Kane, Vancouver's Evander Kane.
Yeah.
Of the Edmonton Oilers, who have cap issues this summer and are expected to either trade or buy out Evander Kane. It's our Whistler Golf Club daily poll question. Should the Canucks bring Evander home?
I'm going to say no. I mean, we saw it in the finals here, right? Like he just doesn't have the foot speed anymore to step up into a top 6 role. Like they lose that. It was as much a statement about how important Zach Hyman was to this team, to the Oilers, as anything. He just was not an effective replacement playing in that role. And we saw it last year. Obviously, we know he was hurt, but last year in the playoffs, like it was remarkable how much he struggled to get around the ice, to be effective in his role. I mean, he's a big, strong guy. He can still pot the odd goal, but just the overall game is not there like it used to be. And that's without even, I mean, obviously he's been a good enough citizen to stay in that locker room. I mean, that team has won with him. So, whatever questions you might have in terms of his presence in the room and his, character and whatnot, it wasn't an issue for the Oilers. But to me, it just comes down to the simple ability, the simple playing ability, and I just don't think that's. I mean, if you're talking about foot speed, like that's why they don't like Brock Besser, right? Like,
yeah, but again, if you get 50% retention, and you're getting that player for 2.7, I'm just devil's advocating here.
Yeah,
if you get that player for $2.7 million, his last full season in the NHL was a 24-goal campaign. He just had a 6-goal playoff campaign. I mean, there is production still there.
Yeah.
I just didn't see. In the end, like I said, the concern for me is the performance and what he's able to do. And yes, you're right. Absolutely. Like you got 20. They got 20. How many goals did Brock Besser have this? Like, listen, if that's the player, listen, there's a little more aggression. I get it. It's a more physical player. He brings a different presence than Besser does. I'm just in the long term. If you're looking for a short term solution, sure, why not throw a dart? But I just don't think this is. I think you can do better, I guess is what I'm saying.
Did you mention he had 12 points in 21 playoff games?
Yeah, 6 goals. I said.
Yeah. I mean that's
great.
That means out to like a 48-point season.
Yeah, that's fine.
For $3 million or something. I mean,
plus he'd make for a great running mate for Francesco in Yaletown, and they could race their fast cars together up the sea sky.
I mean,
you're failing to see the vision here, Patrick, on why you'd bring Evander home.
Is Quinn Hughes' leadership akin to that of McDavid and Draisaitl, who we've been saying they are pretty good policemen for poor behavior in the dressing room? Because are you really going to cross two of the best players on the planet in that room?
Well, especially when they're always grumpy too, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Now.
do the Canucks have that same sort of those same guardrails in the room?
I don't know. I mean, could you imagine?
You don't know? I think you know. I think you know, Patrick.
My suspicion is I don't think so.
You're right. Thank you.
From what I understand, like, no, I just don't think it works. I think intensity certainly is an issue here, but it's they don't have enough of the McDavid Draisaitl type.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Stepping over the boards, I actually think it's a genius acquisition.
No,
It's the other side of the boards that is the issue.
To be fair, no one has enough of the Draisaitl McDavid types.
True.
Yeah,
true.
They're not available this summer, Patrick.
Are they? Damn it!
Well, who knows?
Unless
97
Connor,
might be.
unless Connor has been hiding things
Connor's
really
coming
well
here.
and is going to double cross his buddy Leon. And
I don't think Connor's coming here.
okay, hey, Gretzky was almost here.
I know.
Messier was here. That's
Different era, man. Different era. Also, yeah. Anyway, that's a podcast.
Well,
when are we? You know what? That was the thing. Here's a pitch for you. Bring Rintoul back. Just tell the story of the ownership. Just do a multi-part series about who owns this team, and then we won't see Scott ever again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then Scott will have no life savings. Yeah,
or he sleeps with fishes.
yeah, one of the two.
Take the cannoli. Staying on Evander, the league is investigating the Oilers' use of LTIR surrounding Evander Kane.
Yeah.
I mean, I like what this guy tweeted. So you're telling me if the Oilers would have won the cup and later it comes out that they misappropriated LTIR, what are we doing now, Gary? How are we explaining this one?
Cup recapture. Huh?
Love it.
Cup
Is that the headline? Is that going to be a headline for this episode? That should be cup recapture.
Should be.
I mean, let's point
good.
this out. I'm not the only person that's pointing this out. The Florida Panthers were only able to get Seth Jones because.
Oh yes.
So
this was the first year where we had both finalists exploiting LTIR to the lengths that they did. And really, this is what the league is becoming now, Patrick. Who can best exploit LTIR? And if you happen to be in a tax-free jurisdiction, even more. You get two advantages there, not just one.
Can we bring LG back? Like, have him talk about it? Because he could give us all the thoughts. Given he's the man who I think invented this plan.
Yeah.
I, for the most part, don't care. I think teams are being smart and using all the advantages available to them. That said, I understand why it frustrates people that the lineups in the playoffs don't jive with the lineups in the regular season. It is a particular curiosity of the way NHL salaries work, because of course in the end the playoffs are just playing for passion and I suppose a bag of money at the end. It's a bit like the tax thing. I kind of find myself going, okay, so how do you fix it? The sort of the ruling that says, okay, you can only dress the guys that are available at the end of the season. That might be the way to do it. I'm just not sure.
It's an easy fix, Patrick. If you finish the season on LTIR, you have to miss the first two.
So you have to be on the roster. Sorry, what do you have to do, Matt?
So if you finish the regular season on LTIR, you miss the first two games of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Why two? Why not the whole thing?
One is not enough. Two makes you think, okay, are we going to get behind in this series?
Why not the whole thing? Like, if you're banning two, why not ban them all? Like, I guess
that might be a little harsh.
First round,
and also,
what's it hard? Here's my question: What do
you do want star players in the lineup, right? Like they bring eyeballs.
Why have any penalty at all?
Well, I guess
because it's exploitation.
But I guess Matt is also saying too.
Everyone does it, so who cares?
No, not everyone does it. It's not available to every team every year.
Well, eventually, you're just the law of averages means you're going to get legitimate players that just legitimately it aligns about to the end of the season for them to come back and come back.
I think we know that's happened. I mean, I think we know that's happened. Like, come on.
Yeah.
tough noogies.
Right. So, but a steep penalty, but not an absolute penalty of the whole playoffs. But I'm okay with the first round or 4 games. Like I see, a significant chunk.
First round is, guys.
If you're going to limit this, I mean, and not deal with the tax. I mean, I'm still not. To be clear, guys, there is a tax issue. And by the way, shout out to my buddy James, who keeps feeding me all kinds of info about the tax issue, and was very pleased that we discussed it last week.
Is he the guy with the chart? Somebody sent me a chart. Yes,
well,
on what it equates to in every market.
Is it global holding?
I'm going to look it up. You keep on.
Finish your point.
Anyway, but just like the marginal gains on the tax thing, I'm still not totally convinced. Like Bill Zito did an amazing job. Look at every single player acquisition he made this season. He nailed every single one. Now, did he do that because of the tax issue, or did he do that because he just turns out he's a really good GM? And it's the same thing with LTIR, right? Like the rules are as they're presented. If we're not going to crack down on tax, why are we cracking down on LTIR? I guess I don't.
Patrick, you're far too intelligent a person to couch it, to frame it as an either or thing.
But they are doing
Both
either or.
Things are true.
But they're doing either or.
Job building the Florida Panthers, and he had an advantage that on July 1st he could tell every single free agent $8 million here goes further than $10 million in other places.
Yeah,
both
absolutely.
Things are true.
Well, then,
what are people fucking missing about this?
I'm just saying, if the NHL's not going to ban this or deal with the tax issue, which is there to a degree, I'm not sure how real it is or not, but it exists. If they're not going to do that, why are they going to do something about LTIR?
Well, because there's a movement afoot from general managers. They want to look at this.
That's fine. It just seems odd to me. It seems odd to me to deal with one and not the other.
I sure hope there's a movement afoot with the 26 governors who are in tax jurisdictions, especially when it comes to revenue sharing, because some of them are big revenue sharing payers, where they look around and say, no, these guys are extracting more value out of the cap. Guess what? It's time to play hardball in this CBA.
Patrick, to answer your question,
I'm not going along with revenue sharing for some of these impoverished markets until that's addressed.
To answer your question, Patrick, I think the answer is they have direct legislation on one.
Right.
They don't have direct legislation on the other. So that one is certainly, obviously, under their umbrella. The other one is indirectly under their umbrella. It's a problem for them to fix from somebody else. Mm-hmm. I think that's why one gets, farther up the pecking order.
Much like they fix backdiving contracts, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And were backdiving contracts actually a problem, or is that just something they didn't like because
they were legal at the time? But they were not registered by Central Registry,
and they weren't a problem. They were not widespread and rampant at all. So
anyway,
and they were actually 2 loopholes in one, because you signed the backdiving, and then the player went on LTIR at the end, didn't actually.
Yeah,
resign.
Listen, the use of LTIR and retired players, I have been very clear, is absolutely absurd and ridiculous.
It's
the fact
laughable.
The fact that basically the punishment has only ever been doled out once. Yes, okay, it was doled out twice, but really only ever been doled out once is just tells you everything.
And to the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, to be clear.
Yeah.
Now,
because Jersey got theirs rescinded because some rich guys came around and said, we'll save you from the tire fire that is the ownership on this.
Yeah.
But you've got to. Yeah,
anyway.
Like, Shea Weber playing next year or on the books next year for, I don't even know who's.
Traded a few times. Yeah.
He is on.
But like Chris Pronger worked for the league while he was still being paid.
Yes.
I guess in the end, those are a different bag of problems. Is Shea Weber on Chicago?
Shea Weber is a Chicago Blackhawk contractually.
Anyway, that's a whole other bag. The whole other bag of problems. To me, I will continue to say I have no issue with how teams exploit LTIR. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
I have no issue with that. The tax one, you can convince me on the tax one. I just need to see more stuff.
I have no issue with it either.
We'll show you more stuff. We'll show you next year's Stanley Cup winner and 3 of the 4 conference finalists, and then another and another, until finally we wake up and go, maybe there is something to this. Maybe it is actually a recent phenomenon requiring address, as opposed to just one of many things, as the commissioner tried to layout this past week.
Why-
Incidentally,
why I-
Shea Weber's making $1 million, the final year of his contract, Blake,
Yeah.
at a paltry $1 million from the Chicago Blackhawks. This year.
I've never had issue with
Insurance.
LTIR,
Isn't it
Patrick,
insurance?
because the player has to sign up for it. At least that's my understanding. And if a player, a proud, in a lot of cases, these Canadian Western Hockey League players, they sign up. I don't need to play for us for the entire regular. Like, that is generally not the hockey way. That I'm willing to sit while my teammates do the hard work of making the playoffs, and I'll just jump into the playoffs. Like, that's generally not how hockey players think.
Yeah.
You're not going to find a lot of players that sign up for that, is my point. It can't be a widespread problem because I don't think most players are going to sign up for it. A few, yeah, maybe, but it's not going to be widespread.
I think veteran players who understand how difficult it is to win 4 rounds in the Stanley Cup playoffs are absolutely signing up for this. Take me off the hook for 20 games in the regular season where I know we're going to the postseason anyways. Yeah, I'll sign up. I think absolutely in a load management world, Blake, there are more players who'd be willing to sign up for that.
Well, then we're talking about that, but that's a short-term LTIR, if you will. That's STLTIR. If it's just missing 20
it's a
games.
quarter of the season.
It's not
It's a quarter
Evander
of the
Kane.
season for a player at $10 million. That's an extra $2.5 million of cap space. Multiply it at the trade deadline because you only have a quarter of the season left. So you have like $7.5 million player.
But players do get hurt. Like,
Yeah.
you can't guard against that.
No, I hear you. Okay, we appear to be done here. It was
Good
fun
chat.
this week. Good yelling this week.
Hey, there's a draft in the week. Do you know that?
Yeah, we're gonna cover the draft, believe it or not, and we're gonna have you on next week in
All
advance
right.
of the draft.
Can't wait.
Look forward to it already. Thank
See
you.
you guys.
Love his smile. He's just so upbeat. Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, and we're within a couple of weeks from Canada Day, free agent frenzy in the National Hockey League. And mark your calendars, kick your feet up. The Daily Face-Off live free agency special starting at 8 a.m. Pacific, everybody, on July 1st. 3 straight hours, chaos, contracts, full-blown free agent news and information. Join host Tyler Yaremchuk, analyst Jeff Merrick, Colby Cohen, Johnny Lazarus, Hart Levine of Puckpedia is going to be there to shepherd you through all the cap and CBA business, as well as former players Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby. Every signing, every trade, every what the hell are they thinking moment. And you know there will be some of those this year with everyone awash in cap space. So fire up the group chat, crack something cold. Daily Face-Off free agency special, July 1st, 8 a.m. Pacific. Going to be a full-on banger. Don't miss it.
Should be pretty quiet for the Canucks, so not expected to make many
Well,
changes.
and of course, we'll be here with a Canucks-focused show,
Yeah.
lest the Vancouver Canucks do something. We'll see about that. Here's Rob Williams, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive, and its Offside Sports Vertical. He covers the Vancouver Canucks. Rob, how are you?
Doing great, guys. How are you?
Good. Transactions are starting to happen, Rob. Are you getting excited?
Looks like the Oilers are going to win the Trent Frederick sweepstakes.
Oh, yeah. He's off the board. He's off the board.
Got the Pierre Engvall contract, the updated
Yes.
version.
Yeah, exactly.
There.
Incredible. 8 years. Incredible.
Yeah.
I just nearly fell out of my chair yesterday.
Well, they
Because
got
you
cap
watch-
space, right? They got to keep the hit, the average.
You
annual
watch
down.
that guy play and you think, I want him for another 8 years. I just do. I just do.
I believe that also matched his goal total from this season. But no, Rob, Matt Duchene, Ryan Donato have already resigned. So, 2 top 6 or would-be top 6 forwards.
They were on the long list. They were on the long list.
Absolutely. They're
Yeah.
off the board.
Yeah.
A couple weeks before. We still got many days to tick off before we get to July 1st.
Yeah, I'm looking at an article on Daily Hive from April that was looking at 9 second-line center options the Canucks can sign in free agency. There's already a few off the board. Like you say, Duchene, Donato, Brock Nelson was also on that list. Of the 9, I don't know how many of them are super realistic either, right? Like Sam Bennett's on that list. Like,
Yeah, that's not
the free
realistic. So
agent-
we've cut it in
the free
half.
agent options are dwindling. Yeah, I thought Duchesne maybe was one of the guys that might slip through that maybe would be an option if they, go for a short-term fix at second line center. But yeah, he's off the board. I don't know. Does Michael Granlund excite you? I don't know. Yeah, they're in a tricky spot for sure.
So let's ask you our Whistler Golf Club poll question today. Do they have to make a major move between now and the end of the draft, Rob? Like, do they have to go about this via the trade route before we get to Canada Day?
I think so, because they're behind the eight ball here, right? Like they weren't good enough last year, and it doesn't sound like they're going to bring back Besser. Maybe they bring back Suter, but it doesn't sound so promising with Suter either. Those were two of their best forwards last year.
It's 50 goals. That's 50 goals out of the lineup.
Say whatever you want about those two players. You weren't good enough last year, and now you're going to take away two of your better forwards away from that lineup. Now you have to replace them and then some to get better. So yeah, I think they're in a really, really tough spot. I do think they have a bunch of bounce back possibilities on their roster, like undoubtedly, like Elias, as we've talked about ad nauseum, Elias Pettersson, Demko if he's at
Joshua Höglander, yeah. There's a lot of bounce backs. Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys that they could improve just by not having as disastrous a year as last year, but like on paper, like they need to make improvements to this team. I'm struggling to figure out the path to do it, because they've traded so many young players and future assets in recent years that they're not loaded in that spot. So every time we start talking about trading a Wielander or like Karamaki, I get nervous about that, because they just don't have the depth.
They're not operating in a vacuum here either, Rob. Like, there are 31 other teams, all of them trying to be better, most of them looking for a top six center. So
most of them with cap space too.
Yeah. And so acting sooner rather than later, that's also part of the equation with this poll question. Is never mind that free agency just may not give you anybody that you want, but you have to jump into a chair before the music stops.
I think a little bit about like what the Florida Panthers have done, and you look at some of their top players, they didn't just go after, like, they got Sergei Bobrovsky at top dollar value and paid through the nose to get him in free agency when he left Columbus. But that's not the way they built their team, right? Like, the way they built their team, they brought in a lot of guys that were kind of undervalued, kind of like not necessarily thought of as like winners, right? Like, when they got Sam Reinhart, what was it? Like, his value was not what it should have been, certainly. And they go out and they add him. Matthew Tkachuk was not like thought of as this big winner. Obviously, I think highly touted and everything as well. But they got him at a good time. Sam Bennett, of course, they got at a time where he was very undervalued. And then you look at Seth Jones on defense. He ends up being a huge reason why they win the Stanley Cup. His value probably had never been lower when they get him. So I think that's probably the market the Canucks need to look at, because they're not the belle of the ball in free agency where players are going to be rushing to come to Vancouver. So what do you got to do? You got to find the guys that maybe other teams are overlooking. Maybe find a few diamonds in the rough. Not necessarily like guys where you have no reason to believe that they'll become difference makers, but guys where you're like, okay, maybe this guy his value is in an all-time low. That's maybe the time to pick him up.
Are you with us in terms of getting a little more encouraged about the price on Marco Rossi, given that there seems to be a number of teams worried about his size at center ice?
Fantastic.
Is that getting realer for you, Rob? Yeah.
I think it is. Like I said last week, I'm talking myself into him more and more every day. And I think like that's what you've got to do though, right? Like if you're going to trade for a player, like you can't, like, would it be nice to have a Marco Rossi that was 6'4" and had a great
Skated like the wind.
great playoffs.
If he's 6'4", he's not on the block. I mean,
course,
that's
but you can't get him, right? So you have to draft that guy, and they traded away their first round pick to get Elias Lindholm, right? Like, and that was fun, but now you don't have that prospect in the pipeline now because you made that move to make a push a year ago, right? So. They're gonna have to go for guys like Marco Rossi, guys that are imperfect, guys that are being overlooked. He's being overlooked because he's too small. Well, is that the case? We've seen some short guys win the Stanley Cup before. Marty St. Louis won a Stanley Cup. Marcia So wasn't the biggest guy. He won a Conn Smythe. So is Rossi that, or is he another player that where the criticism is correct, that he doesn't have the profile of a guy that can excel in the playoffs?
Some days you sit here and you wonder, could a fan just beat GM? Rob Williams, tweet February 2nd, 2021, Virtanen for Bennett, who says no. You said a follower retweeted this recently and got this re-engaged to the masses on X.
Yes.
What's the story here, Rob? Because great shout. Oh my God, if they could have gotten Bennett from Virtanen way back when.
Yeah, and the headline of the article is a Virtanen-Bennett trade would make sense for Canucks. 4 years later, but at the time, I wasn't laughed out of the room at the time, right?
Let's provide clarity. He's in the middle of a 38-game post-pandemic season. Mm-hmm. 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points in 38 games.
Right, like Sam Bennett needed a change of scenery.
And he was coming off a 12-point in 52-game season in the pandemic cutoff season.
Yeah. Oh, and he couldn't do a pull-up, right? And he was looking like a top 5 overall bust, and Jake was looking like a top 10 overall bust, but.
And taken from the same draft year, Virtanen, they were same age. Virtanen taken 2 picks after, and if you recall that year, that was when Virtanen's value was I don't know if it was probably near peak, right? Because he was coming off, and this was the Shotgun Jake Mania had swept Vancouver. He had 18 goals and 18 assists in 69 games. He was going to score. He was going to reach the 20-goal plateau if not for the pandemic. Didn't have a good playoffs, of course, and had started the year off slow. He had 1 goal and no assists in 10 games. But yeah, I mean, could you have gotten, and then also the other thing just so in the back of my mind, remember Virtanen just always seemed to score against Calgary? Former Calgary hitman.
Yes.
And he always seemed to score at the Saddle Dome. And I feel like that just sticks in the minds of GMs when there's a guy that every time you're watching him extra close, he kind of does something. I just sort of always thought that would maybe, turn into something. So what could you have got? I mean, you'd love to be a fly on the wall in the negotiations or any of the trade talks. I wonder what happened, because you look at what Bennett went for. He didn't go for a whole heck of a lot. Could you have gotten him for Virtanen in a 2nd round pick? I don't know.
The second he put on a Florida Panthers uniform, guys. So he finished that 2021 season with the Panthers. 15 points in 10 games. 6 goals in 10 games. He goes into the playoffs. He's a point a game. They get tossed in the first round, but he gets a point per game in the first. It's like when we talk about players, and this is relevant to the Canucks now, as they go looking for diamonds in the rough that you were talking about. That's the kind of turnaround you need. You need to find the guy that the light switch gets flicked the moment he changes jerseys.
It's also, though, with Bennett, where it's not like he had never done anything in his career up to that point. He was,
but he hadn't done much. He didn't done much. Yeah,
correct. But he did have a good playoff the year before. He always seemed to deliver for the Flames in the playoffs. And you look at his first full year in the league, he has he had the Jake Virtanen season, 18 goals, 18 assists, 36 points. He had some years where he had scored 26, 27 points. So he had done something, right? Like there was a little bit of a body of work, but then he really had taken a dip right before they traded him. So they traded him at the all-time low value of Sam Bennett. There was no time in his career where he was going to be worth less than then, and that's the time where they decided to trade him, right? And you see GMs make this mistake all the time.
Which begs the question, with the Canucks desperate for a center ice, if they don't get one acquired via trade by the draft and they're on the market July 1st looking for a second-line center, Rob, do you throw stupid money at Sam Bennett knowing you're going to have to outbid others to see if he'll come to town? Like, I'm talking like $12 million a year or something ridiculous like that, just to see if you can fill your hole and bring this Stanley Cup champion and Conn Smythe winner to town.
I'd love nothing more than to see Sam Bennett in a Canucks uniform, but I think that would be a mistake. I think that like that, the Panthers didn't build a cup winner by, throwing stupid money at guys that were already established and that had already done it. I think you've got to find the next Sam Bennett rather than doing that. Would I overpay? I would definitely overpay. I don't know if I go, 8 times 12. I think that could be a deal that you end up really, really regretting. Different player, but remember when the Leafs went out and got Dave Bolland? Remember Bolland, just such a great playoff guy, and just a winner and a guy that shuts down the other Sedins and gets under their skin in the playoffs. And what did he do after he left Chicago? So, there's an element of that where I really worry that changes scenery for him, huge contract, different environment. He probably doesn't make the same impact that he's making in Florida right now, but he is a nice player, of course.
But pick
three follow-ups there. Number one, the most they can. Three.
Okay. Let's go. It's going to take a while.
The most they can offer him is 7 years, not 8.
Yes. E's and O's, sorry.
It's okay. Secondly, you're talking about building a cup team, Rob. The exercise here is just to get to next year's postseason and keep Quinn Hughes happy. We live day by day, man. We lurch year to year. Like, we don't have grand visions in this market for cup contention. And then lastly, I see your David Bolland, and I raise you Jeff Finger. Do you remember that one July 1st when everybody had money? And little known, little used defenseman out of Colorado, Jeff Finger, got huge cake from the Leafs.
Yep.
And the Toronto Sun ran the greatest headline ever. Leafs give fans finger.
That's a good headline.
Were you okay with my 3 follow-ups?
Yeah, that's good. I was going to say, do you try to follow the mold to some, and this can be a fool's errand too, of getting not flame out top 10 picks, but and Rossi qualifies. He's a 9th overall pick. Alexis Lafreniere qualifies. Do you go chase down
Zegras?
Top 10 picks that are Zegras too? Is that your best route? Guys with pedigree, guys that have shown you something but are ebbing low right now, and they're not Sam Bennett pestilence, but overall performance, that might be an errand that the Vancouver Canucks choose to go down.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you need to be careful as well, right? Like, you don't want to go down the
flame out boulevard.
Remember, like Jim Benning, that was kind of a strategy where they would, that's how the Canucks got Adam Clendenning for Gustav Forsling. That's how they traded away a pick that Calgary used to get Rasmus
Sven Berchi
to get Sven Berchi.
Hey, that's not just resigned to Benning. Like, the Gillis administration did that too.
No,
you can look around the NHL. If you're a first-round pick, you have that stapled to your resume. You're going to get chance after chance.
The Gillis regime, I think, spent less on it, though. I think that was kind of the thing where the Benning regime, I felt like they got burned a little bit more on that, and also just the point in their cycle where they should have just been acquiring draft picks and being patient. this edition of the Canucks, that in this regime, they're in a different situation than Benning was in, right? They have some players, they have some players that they've drafted and developed, like Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson, and they need to start winning. They need to start making moves. So yeah, I think like an Alexis Lafreniere, could that player benefit from a change of scenery? Could he blossom in Vancouver? Definitely could, right? I mean, you could be wrong on it too. So you got to it all depends on the price. But yeah, to answer your question, Blake, like I think that's definitely like an area where they could go down that route, because there's not a lot of paths here for them, because they're not loaded. The pipeline is not loaded with young talent, and they're not willing to. It doesn't sound like it anyways. It doesn't sound like they're willing to just wait and draft and develop, because they need to make some moves. They need to get Quinn Hughes to re-sign here. They need to give some hope, for this current group and get them into a position.
The words of wisdom there, though, they are not physical players. None of those players I mentioned are exactly noted for their physicality. And
how about we score goals?
Yeah,
and worry about physicality later. Like you were bereft of goals.
Okay,
let's address the thing that actually counts on the big scoreboard in every arena, and then we can address
odds on Evander Kane being a Vancouver Canuck next year.
Oh my gosh!
Oh man, I mean, hey, you could probably get him at low value.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know that I'd go there. I think that. Like a situation with a player like that with his track record, I think a place like Edmonton was perfect, where you walk into a room where you've got the alpha dogs already there, right? Like you're not talking over McDavid and Draisaitl, and they own the room. I don't feel so confident if he walks into the Canucks room. You don't have that leader base there, like you do in Edmonton or an established winning team. Like Kane could go to Florida and he'd be great in Florida, but I don't know if Vancouver is the best spot for him.
Yeah,
from a hockey perspective, I don't mind it at all.
I don't mind it at all from a hockey perspective, frankly, just because they need talent, and if this is talent that is effectively going to be given away, acquired on the cheap,
and it's edge and physicality that they don't have. But what does he do to that room?
Yeah. Well, it should be a fun couple of weeks, Rob. Thanks for this. We'll catch up next Thursday.
Thank you.
Sick Harrison Price from the Historic Wall Center. And if you're heading to a game in downtown Vancouver, make a staycation out of it. Book your stay here at the Wall. Call 604-331-1000. Ask for the Sick Harrison Price rates on blackout date supply based on availability. Our friend Jeff Merrick in the Sheet, he's going to join us tomorrow. But he's got the Sheet Draft Day special going. That is Friday, June 27th. The NHL entry draft starts at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Real coverage, the entire 2025 first round. He'll be there with all the top prospects, the surprise steals, the shocker picks. I can't believe he was there for us. Join Jeff if you're looking for the NHL at large.
We'll have your Canucks coverage.
We will have your Canucks coverage.
Yeah.
This is brought to you by the Nation Network. Join Jeff on the Daily Face-Off YouTube channel.
Can't go wrong on the Nation Network. We got you covered broadly. We got you covered with the focus, with the foci of each and every market, to use a word from earlier this week.
Or foci.
If you so choose.
Also acceptable. Nathan Rourke did not practice Wednesday. That is a step back from the limited practice he had on Tuesday. It does not look good for Nathan Rourke on Saturday. Gary Peters continues to be limited. I don't yet know if that's veteran load management, where he's a valuable veteran DB and they just don't want him out there practicing every day, or if there are legitimate concerns about Gary's health. He played last week. Stanley Berryhill, a receiver, added to the injury report yesterday. It's a thigh injury. It's got him limited. BC hosts Winnipeg Saturday at BC Place. A loss could drop the Lions into last place in the West if Edmonton beats Montreal tonight. Calgary and Saskatchewan have started 2-0. Of course, Winnipeg's 1-0 after getting the bye and then beating BC in their first game of the season.
Not worried about Rourke until it's a 3-week injury or something like that. You use two quarterbacks in this league. We know it every single year. So
and Masoli's capable.
Yeah,
That's a veteran guy. He's not sort of Vernon Adams explosive off the bench, but he is more than capable. It's a pretty good roster for the Lions. They should be able to stay competitive minus Rourke.
I would say on the whole, they're more healthy this week than they were last.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
maybe at less critical positions.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the injury to Rourke, I mean, they've gotten out of the first couple of games recently unscathed.
Yeah,
so.
but they've got some guys coming back, too, that they didn't play last week.
Yes,
so
they should.
Yeah, not an issue yet, even if he misses this week, but we'll monitor.
CONCACAF is investigating Canadian men's national team Jesse Marsh for incidents during the Gold Cup victory Tuesday here at BC Place, 6-0 over Honduras. Marsh allegedly, quote, disregarded regulations applicable to suspended match officials and used offensive language towards CONCACAF match officials. So if you don't know the background here, Marsh is serving a 2-game suspension for his red card in that third place game versus the USA in Nations League back in February. It was February or March? Anyways.
March.
March, thank you. So this was the first of the 2-game suspension. He is also going to miss Saturday's game against Curaçao. That's right. So the rules of the suspension state that Marsh is able to pick the roster. He's able to lead training. He's able to pick the starting 11 for the match. Mm-hmm. He's not allowed to be on the touchline.
No.
And that's why Mauro Bialo was effectively coaching Canada from the touchline. The incidents involved here surround whether he left the private suite where he was supposed to watch the match and then used some terrible language and berated a CONCACAF official who told him you're not supposed to be here, or whatever the case may be.
I was able to actually speak with somebody who witnessed this event. And there were not many witnesses of this event because it was in a private corner of BC Place. But somebody did see it just by happenstance. And I was able to get some of the details. And it is pretty freaking innocuous. It is pretty standard stuff of, you don't want me here, you want me 5 feet over here?
Well, so let me ask you this. Is part of the suspension that he's not allowed to sit with like technical staff that would have communication with the touchline in their area?
No, they're allowed to have some communication, in fact.
Okay.
No, it is literally about geographic whereabouts. And I think it is a straw that has broken the camel's back here with Jesse Marsh, who has seen far too many CONCACAF shenanigans. Let's face it, getting CONCACAF'd is a verb now.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. There are shenanigans in this conference that you just don't see in places like UEFA. And I think Jesse Marsh, having experienced both of the conferences firsthand, has had just about enough about some of these CONCACAF shenanigans. And hey, Victor Montaliani is a Vancouver guy that runs CONCACAF, and we've had some great conversations with Victor. But the ruling with the iron fist here, with regards to the big three, it's looking like a step has.
What do you mean ruling with the irons?
Previous to this, CONCACAF knew that this was a pretty small kingdom. There was really only 1 or 2 nations that really mattered in the conference.
The USA commercially, Mexico competitively.
And that is starting to change now.
Yep.
Panama is into the top 35 now of the world rankings.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica's a good team. And Canada, of course, meteoric rise.
Dominican's even on the rise.
There are good teams in this conference. This is a competitive conference that should be treated a little bit more like a competitive conference.
So there are 2 conspiracy theories around this investigation. One is that Jesse Marsh got on the wrong side of CONCACAF officials, including potentially Victor, you tell me, with his claim that Whitecaps players were poisoned in Mexico City, his word, not mine, by that stadium caterer on the home ground of Cruz Azul after the CONCACAF Champions Cup match. You'll remember they all had gastrointestinal matters, spending hours, if not days, on the toilet. I mean, we got
Well
this.
past the match.
Yeah, I mean,
versus Seattle.
Jeevan Badwal gave us the story straight from his mouth.
Thankfully.
Yes, after scoring in that game against Seattle. The second, and this one is a little further in the weeds, although I see you tweeted about it, so by all means, please do explain, is that Victor, who of course at one point ran the Canadian Soccer Association and still has influence there, that maybe Jesse Marsh wasn't his guy, or the new leadership weren't people that he would have put in place, and that there was friction there. But you tell me. What's the story?
From what I understand,
I almost feel like we should get Victor on here at some point to explain, defend himself if we're going to go down these roads.
okay, would Gary Bettman admit to suggesting general managers to National Hockey League teams on the record, do you think?
I think he might say the guidance of the league office is available to those governors who want to reach out on hockey operations matters. Yeah, I think he might couch it in those sort of broad terms.
Broad terms, yeah, maybe. Anyway, you're under no obligation as an NHL owner to abide by that. The Canucks certainly didn't when they signed Mike Gillis to be the general manager, for instance. Did it rankle people in New York when the Canucks signed Mike Gillis? Sure did. Was not on their short list of guys that maybe the Canucks should look at. And did they prevent it? No, they can't prevent it. Can you extrapolate that things like cap recapture and other things came the Canucks' way? Scheduling, all that sort of stuff, because they went against the wishes of Gary Bettman? Again, for you to decipher. Well, similar sort of feelings might have been held by CONCACAF about who should be in charge of the Canadian Soccer Association. Kevin Blue and Jesse Marsh, don't think they were on the list.
Yeah. And knowing Victor, look, he has put a lot of his professional life into the development of this sport in Canada. And frankly, the sport, you've come a long way, baby, in the last 10 years or so. I mean, let's remember, Blake, they lost 8-1 in Honduras once upon a time in World Cup qualifiers. I think it was 13 years ago, right? Like one of the biggest stains for Canadian soccer ever, because we actually thought, okay, maybe this one has a chance. And then they get stomped like that in Honduras, the same country they just beat 6-0. So there you go. That's how far Canada's come.
And again, Matt, that's a perfect example.
Microcosm.
At that moment, if CONCACAF's head says, I think you should hire so-and-so, you should probably listen at that point. Now, go your own way.
So here's what I would say is I have no doubt that Victor has the best intentions in mind for Canada soccer and for the development of the sport.
And I agree with that.
In the country. I also think that there may well be a case here that Victor just has to let go.
Yeah, I think all that is true. I don't think Victor's trying to sink Canada soccer.
No,
not in the least.
No. If I know two things about Victor, he bleeds soccer, he bleeds Canada.
Yeah, for sure. And for Vancouver, and he wants to.
Yeah.
He has been a key figure in trying to bring the World Cup here.
We weren't having games here until Victor inserted himself into the proceedings and said, what the hell is our provincial government doing? You may remember that.
True.
The province was saying, no, we don't want to host games here. We're one of like 2 or 3 jurisdictions that said no to the FIFA World Cup, and Victor said over my dead body, and he got that changed.
But I think you could also then extrapolate from that after all of that influence and all of that importance for all those years, when he makes a suggestion or has ideas about who should be in charge and those aren't abided by it, would he be rankled by it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Potentially.
The one thing I was...
Like the original suspension itself, Matt, is without precedent. Like Jesse Marsh being suspended twice for the one incident. Like that's just
2 games for the one incident.
Yeah, but it's 2 1-game suspensions. They added on
semantics.
No, but it's not. It's about precedent. You got 1 game for your protesting
Red
versus
card.
the ref. And then they said, no, you didn't leave fast enough.
So you get another one.
You get another one. And if you watch the incident, like not leaving fast enough, it was 6 seconds before he made his first move towards it. Like, are you kidding me?
Here's what I will also say. The world of soccer governance, as you may know, is not the purest. There have been some matters, including raids in Switzerland once upon a time. With regards, and this is when we first began our conversation with Victor way back when, after a lot of FIFA corruption had been outlined and prosecuted.
Well, go cover the recent agenda of Gianni Infantino. It's not getting any better.
Well, okay. I mean, they're not raiding hotel rooms in Switzerland anymore. But
given his company, they might want to.
We had a number of conversations with Victor back then, who was still a very high-ranking soccer official by CONCACAF standards, that there was a pathway here for countries like Canada that have always been peacemakers, have always been effective with this country's credibility in terms of being mediators, stepping in, bringing integrity to sports federations, athletic bodies, and I'll say this, Blake, you're right. It's still not completely clean. I like the fact that we've got an advocate like Victor pulling for Canada, pulling for this region of the world.
I agree. Having somebody
like we have somebody who's close to the Pope here, and that's meaningful.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, we've talked a lot about this. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, that's very fair. That's very fair. And if he's overstepped his bounds here, he's overstepped his bounds here. Casey Telford out of Toronto writing soccer. There have been suspended coaches who have yelled, texted, phone called, even walkie-talkie decisions to their staff or benches from open areas. What does CONCACAF think Jesse Marsh did from inside a suite? Deliver plays by pigeon carrier?
That's just it. It seems pointed at Jesse Marsh at this point.
Yeah, well, I can see how Jesse rubs some people the wrong way. I think he's fantastic. But Vancouver Canadians, the streak has finally snapped at 11 consecutive wins. They fall 8-1 in Eugene last night, and now they no longer control their playoff destiny. Final day of the first half of the Northwest League season. They are tied with Everett for first place, but the Aqua Sox, the farm team of the Seattle Mariners, they own the tiebreaker. So Vancouver must win tonight and hope Everett loses in Spokane. Spokane has lost 8 games in a row, including all 6 last week.
So they're due. So they're due.
Yeah, right?
That's what I hear.
Chris McIlvaine gets the ball for the season. This must win. This was purely a playoff game. I'm not sure he would. He's started 2 games this year with no decision. He had a 4.76 ERA in just 5 innings. He did make 11 starts at this level last year. So he's back home Tuesday for Hipster Night at the Nat, a 6-game set. Runs through Sunday. Saturday is Marvel Superhero Day at the park with a comic book giveaway, and Thursday's game features fireworks after the final out. Tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Whistler Golf Club poll question results from Wednesday. Which Stanley Cup free agent would most benefit the Canucks? Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand. And the people said
Sam Bennett.
Percentage?
85.
Daniel, it's far and away, Brad. We need culture change and mentorship for Petey. Can you believe how far Brad Marchand has come? We're talking about him.
That was my thought,
Bennett
too.
shows up in the playoffs, sure, but floats through the regular season. Marchand also kicks butt in the playoffs, but he's there for teammates, for the team throughout. Saw a lot of this. Patrick, pointless poll. Neither of them would ever consider coming here. Okay, fair enough. Pucker Glenn, immediate need would be Marchand. He'd be a great partner tutor for Petey. Long term, he's voting.
What was the question,
Bennett.
though?
Which Stanley Cup free agent would most benefit the Canucks?
Right. So we're really talking about the profile of player, not who should the Canucks go and sign. That was the exercise. So what are the Canucks missing in the room, missing on the ice, that these players, that's the way I read it. That's the way I answered it. Because they're not signing either of them.
Well, you conceived it.
Yeah. That's the way I wrote it. There you go.
Right. Yeah. You wrote it. Big list of errors and omissions.
Uh-oh. What happened? You start with me.
Well, I mean, some of this is on you.
Okay. What is it?
You inquired about Marian Hossa's Stanley Cup final history. He was with Detroit. He was with Pittsburgh in 2008 when they lost to Detroit. He was with Detroit in 2009 when they lost to Pittsburgh. And then he did go on to win 3 cups with Chicago before the skin rash had to end his back diving contract on LTIR.
That was not punished, yeah.
Luosterainen, we were wondering how Florida acquired him. It was in the Vincent Trocheck trade that they made with Carolina back in February of 2020. I had Artur Shilovs at 14-5. It's 14-5-1. And then at one point, Ghost in the Machine, the screen behind me went off.
Oh, really?
Mike fixed it pretty quickly, though, and from afar. So well done on the fix, Mike.
Force.
Just checking. Okay, it's on now.
It's good.
Anything to add? Anything from the inbox? Anything from Pedantic Yerky?
No, nothing.
All right.
Nothing to talk.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the show. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. On social, follow X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.